Hello, I'm Dr. Rick Chambers, and welcome to this edition of Health, Happiness, and Harmony educational videos. The purpose of our videos are to help people on purpose and with intention work toward health, happiness, and harmony. Another way to think of it would be to facilitate people's personal journey. Or if you want to help, these same videos would help if you want to help someone else in their personal journey. So this could be for anyone that's working on their own health, happiness, and harmony, anyone that's trying to help someone else, from counselors to teachers, ministers, or parents. And it's just helpful ways of thinking about life, thinking about psychology, that has a purpose other than just learning facts and information. It's how you apply these things to your individual life that matters. And so today we're going to be talking about the ego and the soul as parts of a whole. And the best way to understand this, the depth psychologists, beginning with Freud and Carl Jung, developed this view of the psyche as being composed of loosely integrated spirits. They said you're not a unity. So it's loosely integrated spirits. It can be thought of as organizational systems or subsystems within the personality, or as actual sub-personalities. And these can be created, they have three main sources. One would be biology. So when you're hungry, if you're desiring, if you're angry, if you're scared, there's kind of automatic programming and a pattern of behaviors and perceptions, motivations, all these things. It's as if there's a different person specific to certain biological states or situations. It could also be, these can be programmed over long periods of history, and they're culturally programmed. So much of our behavior is based in culture, and we can think of these as sub-personalities. And it can also come from your individual history and life. An example would be trauma, and then if something triggers memories of the trauma, you go into a completely different experience of the world and pattern of behavior. But some of the more organized subpersonalities that these writers wrote about, one was the ego and the other was the soul. Carl Jung primarily was a psychologist that talked about the soul in a very specific way. Many of the depth psychologists talked about the ego, and most people in common talk every day kind of have an idea of what ego and soul mean. But if you really want to get down to it, they have their own perceptions, their own motivations, value systems. So how about that? You have multiple value systems within you that can change from one moment to the next. The way the depth psychologists talked about it, they said you're not master of your own house. So when we feel in control, what's probably in control is what they called the ego. When somebody loses it, I kind of teach what you're losing is ego control. There's willing. Each sub-personality has a will. So imagine being on a diet or something like that. You kind of make your resolution, but then if you smell the cookies baking or something, it's as if another personality kind of has you in its grip. And so there's different behavior patterns depending on what's organizing your personality. These subpersonalities, it's not like neuroscience. It's not a specific part of your brain. It's just a psychological concept, which is no more real or no less real than love, relationships, or the mind itself. And so remembering from other videos where we talked about the early Greeks used soul and mind, the word psyche to represent the soul and mind interchangeably. They were not differentiated. Modern psychology talks about the mind and behavior and doesn't talk about the soul. About 1900, Freud used the word ego. And so as we're getting into this idea of soul work, we now have the concepts of the body, the mind, the soul, the ego, and all of these have to do with behavior, and behavior has to do with everything to do with your journey toward health, happiness, and harmony. But if you want to change your behavior or improve your lifestyle in some way, you really have to understand how the body and mind and soul and ego kind of interact with each other. And that's why it's so important to teach these concepts. So please join us again for another Health, Happiness, and Harmony educational video.